One thing that came up when you were talking that I remembered I wanted to say back when you were talking, sir, was this idea of an improv class being so important to developing those social skills. And I was like, man, someone can make $1 million if they developed a good course that was like a improv class for martial artists.
Yeah, and combat improv.
Yeah.
Full contact improv.
Yeah. Since you came up with the idea, what would be the one thing that you would teach in a class like that, do you think?
So it wouldn't be the specifics that I teach, but it would be how it's taught, right? Because you have the skills that you teach to defuse things. These are well known, they're well taught, they're well orchestrated by people with more intelligence and more experience than I have. But what happens in an improv is you get together for a couple hours a week and you practice them in a competitive environment where you're under pressure. It's like sparring.
Yeah.
And then if you do improv seriously, you then go do it in public. Right. And so you're starting to get that, the pressure testing where you try to get yourself adrenally charged and then try to do the technique and you're all because you've forgotten how your fingers work because you have an adrenal dump, right?
Yeah.
And we've got all these different ways that we train to try to get accustomed to that adrenal dump so that we can handle things.
Yeah.
And then improv is a way to do that with your verbal skills.
That's awesome.
It's not the curriculum I do. It's just the method of teaching. That's just, there aren't very many other places that you have the opportunity to do that. It's like when I was running my school, a lot of parents would ask me about why I have kids spar. And for me, it's really simple. That when you are sparring, first of all, it's nothing like a fight. It's not even anywhere near like a fight. But the two things when you start to spar is, number one, that person standing across the line from me is a trained martial artist. And number two, they're about to start trying to punch me in the head.
Yes.
And when you're 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, that is the safest, most effective way of teaching a kid how to deal with legitimate fear that I've ever encountered. Because that's scary.
Yeah.
And getting up and doing improv conversations in front of 80 people you don't know, 3 of whom came just to heckle you, that's scary.
Well, it reminds me so much of what we do in our leadership program, which is our structure training program here at the Academy. We do a lot of role play in the office, on the floor, and then the role play is really training for the real battle, which is teaching the class in front of the kids. And, a lot of times new people to our leadership program will go, oh yeah, like I got it. Like, we'll do some role play on the floor of how to teach a class, and we'll do a class of miscreants, like kids who are misbehaving and stuff, and they got to use their social skills to basically control the kids and get them back in line. And they'll kind of be like the first day, they'll be like, yeah, okay, got it, and then they'll go to teach class and they don't got it. They'll just be like thunderstruck, oh my gosh. And then they'll come back and be like, okay, role play, like this is really important. And that's exactly what you're talking about, but doing it for that violence. Like someone comes in at you right up in your face and, you're not going to be able to do it in the moment. I remember my mom, she would always say, my mom's a really little lady and she is quite like vicious in a good way. Like she doesn't back down, but she would always say, well, you don't know, I would protect my kids like a raging wombat or something, I just come out and just be ferocious. And it's not just my mom. I remember so many kids growing up would say stuff like that. Well, you don't know, when I would go to fight, I would be like a monster. Well, you don't know that actually. And that's probably not what's going to happen. You're probably going to freeze up and do nothing. And the best way to even begin to know is doing that role play, like you're saying.
Well, professionals have a saying about violence, and that is, we don't rise to the occasion. We fall to our level of training.
Yeah.
And although there are exceptions, and I'm glad there are exceptions, that's seen, everybody I know who has seen violence multiple times agrees with that statement. And so we need to train our physical skills. We need to train our verbal skills. We need to train our awareness, sitting down and not just kind of puffing our chest and sitting in our corner so we can see the door, and making sure all of our friends see us do that, which is, you see people who are like that and it's kind of annoying, but also sitting down and playing a game with your kids about, hey, in this in this room, if I weren't here and you needed help, or if I had a heart attack right now, which of these people would you go to for help? Which of these strangers would you approach for help? You know, or when you're sitting with your buddies, you know, okay, close your eyes. Where's the exit? You know, and just these little things that training and practicing and gamifying all of these different safety skills. You know, and not just the sparring and the martial arts training, which is of course the most fun, but it's, you know, some of the least effective if we do our jobs right, because we'll never be called on to use it.